Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to a new episode of Project LS400. Now, before I start off this episode, I would first like to thank the supporters who bought me a coffee and sent other donations. That really helps me out. I bought new filming equipment and I bought new tools, and I'm gonna show them in a later episode. In this episode 23 of Project LS400, I want to start working on the doors again and finish off the left-hand side of the car. Now, in the previous episode, I was doing a lot of things simultaneously and I had too much loose ends. And one of the things I did while I was watching paint dry is that I took off the inner door panel of the rear door on the left hand side. I took out the window glass, and the reason for that is I saw a little dent in the door and I wanted to see if I could push it out with the end of my hammer. I sort of succeeded, but I soon came to the conclusion that specialist work for the paintless dent repair guy or for the bodywork guy. So in this episode I want to do two things. One is to reinstall all this in the rear door and show you what goes in which order it goes in, so you have somewhat of a guideline to take things apart and put it back together if you have to do it yourself. And then I'm gonna move one step forward to the driver's door, because I noticed when I raised and lowered the window, the inner door panel starts moving up once the window is almost shut. When it's shut, you can see this edge of the door panel push slightly up, and it shouldn't do that, so I'm gonna look into that. So I'm gonna move the camera to the rear of the car and let's get started. One of the last things I took off was this molding on the outside, and I painted some small areas over here. There was some rust farming. I put rusty farmer on there. Now everything is good to go back on. And let's have a peek on the inner part of the door. As you can see, I took almost everything off on the inside. Only the door opening mechanism and the door lock are in, but all of the rest I took out. I cleaned it the best that I can. There was a lot of loose debris in there. Now I'm gonna put everything back in. The window guide, the runners, the window regulator and all. So it may seem as a simple task, but this being a Lexus LS400, this might take an hour or two. So the first thing I want to do is install the trim on the outside. Okay, this is the outside window trim. It's currently on my workbench, and where over here I have the workshop manual. There you are. Okay, this is how it's held in place. You can see there are 6 screws on the lower part, which attaches it to the door, and around the circumference there are 3 more. Also there are these clips, and most of these clips came loose, but these clips slide into these slots, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the top of the trim. And they look like this, small yellow clips. So that hold the upper part. But on the lower part, I need to use some screws. There's a screw on the front, another screw on the back, and there are some screws in the lower part that hold this rubber-like material. As you can see, they are loose. The screws attach to a small bracket inside there, and that's, as you can see, it's spot welded. See if I can adjust the camera lighting. These are spot welded, but all of them rusted loose. This entire piece, I thought it was plastic, but it appears to be all metal. It's a real high quality metal. I can't fix this to the car without having the lower side loose, and I think it was already loose when I pulled it off. Now I have to see how I am going to repair this. before I can put it back on. Okay, here's my plan of attack for reinstalling this trim. I put all those small clips back in place, and I found this missing bracket. It broke off. It has some sort of spot welds on there. That one broke off, and all of the lower ones broke off too, except for this one. As you can see, that's still in there. Now what I am going to do, I found some epoxy glue. The camera will focus. I'm gonna use this, try to glue this back on, those two brackets, and then I'm going to glue those screws in. Those are M4 screws. One goes in this hole and one goes in this hole. I leave all the others, leave them be, because in the door, now I'm heading back to the car, in this lower edge there are only two small holes. This one in the front and another one in the back. Now those are 2.5 millimeter holes. I'm gonna drill them out to 4 millimeters, and that's where those screws go in. And once the epoxy has cured, let's get back. Those will be sticking out in here. They'll be glued to the outside, and this weather stripping, this rubber-like material in here, gets sandwiched in between. So then it's fully fastened around the entire perimeter, and then it's good to go. So I'm gonna do that first. It's about time to put this molding back in. And as you can see, there is this rubber weather stripping on the top and on the front. You need to put that in first. And honestly, this is my fourth attempt to put it in. I recorded a lot, but I can't include it in this video because it's one big mess. And finding out how this goes back in, it's important to know that you have to have the front door a bit open, otherwise you can't get this around that corner. Now let me, I hope doesn't block the view all too much. First thing is you have to pull the lower window guide, the weather stripping, a bit to the side, and this back corner goes in first. And I have to pass that stud through its hole. You can see this is completely loose now from the outdoor trim. And it is a bit of a pain in the behind to get all the weather stripping that cross paths, to get them back in. And the top one, this one goes around the corner. Now we have to locate all the tiny clips that are in here. Put this weather stripping a bit further in. That one's in, that one's in. There is a stud on top on here and one over here. Both are in. Now you can hear the clips click. All that is in. Push this in best that I can. Alrighty, well, that one's in, but there is still a bit of movement, and I took it off twice already because all the things I epoxied in came loose. And what I'm going to do is first install the whole shebang in this door and then just super glue this to the outer trim. This is what it is. It's not an ideal solution for me, but anywho, see how that goes in. Yeah, it sits nice. It does sit nice, all in all. Okay, let me get the camera towards the back so you can see how it's attached. So here is the door frame from the inside. Behind this rubber weather stripping on the top, there are one, and let me show you, there is number 2 in the corner. There are some studs behind there with deep nuts that pull it on the upside. Over here is a small clip for the weather stripping. Then there is a screw. There is a screw on the door frame. On the lower part are the mounting holes that all broke off, which I tried to glue back in place. This one is missing. This one is super glued in. This one is a threaded part with with self-tapping screw that was originally there and still in place. This one is epoxied in. Now here is the door lock, and just above there is another screw, and on the upper side it's clipped in place with those plastic yellow clips I just showed. So that's how that outer door trim goes in. Okie dokie folks, it's time to put the window mechanism back in. Of course the window, the electric motor with the arm, that one goes in first. And I'm not tightening anything just yet, I'm just gonna put it in place. And this is the rear window guide / window runner. It's aluminum and it's held in place with those aluminum crosshead screws. I'm gonna put them in just loosely, so it leaves me a bit of wiggle room literally to slide the window glass in. Okay, that's nice. At least this one is in. Put this runner aside. Now I can see the rear window runner, but I need a little bit of extra light to determine where the guide wheel goes into the runner. Okay, now I have the front wheel on the window glass itself aligned with this front runner. I'll attempt to screw one in. Okay, well, it shows two things: that you can do this by yourself and why you shouldn't do this by yourself. I got it in, but don't ask me how. Alrighty, I had some time to catch my breath. Now the front window guide needs to come in. It's dotted yellow, and there is an open part on the bottom, and the flat part goes on top. The slide is over the guide wheel on the window itself. Good and tight. Can of Electroprotect, it's for electric connectors under the car and under the hood. It's one of the first things I bought when I started Project LS400, and I never used it, so that's the first time I'm going to put this to use. You spray some on the door connectors. Try not to be in the way, but it's very difficult having this cramped workshop. Let's push this one on there. Yeah, now I can see why I didn't want to hold. On the rear there is this U-shaped clip with a screw, goes on there, and this also holds the lower door panel in place. Time to foil our moisture barrier. Okay, and now, just act like we didn't make that mistake, the speaker comes in. Okie dokie, let me get you up close so you can see what yours truly has been doing. So the window trim is screwed in place here, then it's clipped behind the edge over there around the top section of the window. There are two clips, one here and one there behind there, and that's all there is to it. And then comes the moisture barrier, the foil, and the connector for the electric window is behind the foil, and all other connectors run on top. And you have the speaker assembly that's held in place with 4 screws, 2 on top, 2 on the bottom. So here I have the door panel. I got it cleaned. Only thing I had to do, there is this chrome bit on the inside and a window seal that was loose, and it just folded in place with those tiny little clamps. I can't show you on camera. Anyway, as you know, I've done a lot of welding in this lower section here in this episode, and I think the car has been in the water for a longer or shorter period of time, and you can also see by the water marks in here there has been standing water in here, and that well, those metal brackets in here that are glued, spot welded some sort in place, are rotted out and the clips are missing. Now I have looked through my stash of clips and I find those two. These come from a Nissan Sunny, my previous project car, which I sold last year, and I'll try to clip those in, and then this panel should be ready to go back on the car. And the ashtray in place, and I was frustrated an hour ago with installing the window and the runners, but it really pays off now that this listing is in place, and I immediately forget about my unfortunate epoxy gluing start accident, because I'm really happy with how this sits at this moment. Now it looks nice and solid. Let's carry on. First thing that needs to come up is this cover for the child lock. Just have to push it in. It doesn't exactly clip in. And then there is the long screw with a washer attached to it that goes into there until it catches. Do not overturn it. There's this clip, goes over there. Nice cover. Okay, next up are the screws for the door handle. That's underneath the panel where the ashtray and the button for the electric window lives. Okay, here's a safety lamp that lives underneath the armrest. Goes in like that, and there. Locate the hole. Put the illumination for the ashtray back in. Just clicks in place. Front goes in first. There's a plastic clip in here, and there are spring clips on the back. So the front goes in first. Easier said than done. And there it is. It's a bit of a hassle. The only thing I need to do is put this cover over here in. I epoxy glue that. Let's see how it holds up. Well, there is this clip that goes in there. So it goes in front first. It wants to go, and then I should be able to clip in the back, but there it is. Now it is a visible crack. I don't like that, so I'm going to look for a replacement one. If you have any, by the way, please let me know. You can send me an email on this address. Leave a comment in the comment section below. So that one's in. The door is finally in. and I think all in all it took me 3 weeks to get this done. But anyway, this looks much better now, and that was the main goal of this whole exercise. So let's close up and let's have a peek with what's going on wrong in here. I'm gonna raise the window. You can see this move upwards a bit. Let's see what's loose here. I just want to feel it before I take everything off. I have the same problem with this trim piece where it is loose. I wish I saw this when I had this panel off, when I worked on the door lock on there. But anyway, I'm gonna take the door panel off, show you how that's done, and then we'll try another method and see if we can fix this, because this is worse than on the rear, and I really want to address this issue. I have the window lowered now, yes. So I'm gonna take out the ignition key on the outside, but I should note you should be prying on the inside, otherwise you'll leave an impression in the soft piece of the door trim. And then unhook it from the front, get it over, push this little tab, and there is the first part off. I'm gonna put this aside under the wood part so I don't damage it. Start from the back, pull it out on the front. Then push the tab on the connector, which is easier said than done. Then it comes out. Then is the safety lamp. And in this case the spring part was on the front. I'm not sure if it is directional. I don't think it matters much. Oh yeah, and there's a hidden screw in this vent opening for a small defogger over there. There's a screw in the back under the door latch, which is color matched with the interior panels. If I'm not mistaken, there should be some screws hidden behind here, the lower part. There are 4 of those screws in total. And this is held in place with, there are 2 metal clips on the back that hold a speaker grill in. And start pulling from the front. There it is. To pull the cables out, and that's the door panel out. Let's see how many screws we have here. Okay, the small tweeter comes off. Can I disconnect it from there? See, I can feed it through. Yes, I can, so I'll leave everything intact. Clips on there, and I want to leave them in place. Just peel this off. Just the same as on the back. And I think we have the same sturdy metal clips in here. Yes, we have. Let me have a look behind there. There are those hidden screws behind here. Back. When I put those back on, those plastic covers, they immediately glue themselves back to the metal work. These deep plastic nuts with a Phillips head screw on the back. The camera will focus. As Philip happened, those are those deep threaded nuts. Yeah, those were installed 30 years ago in the Lexus factory. And now some baboon wants to take everything off. The window a little bit more because I can't reach those last two screws. So in this position I can unscrew the window glass. Next up is this rear runner, the one I'm taking off right now. Oops, forgot to press record. I got a front runner loose. This part is stuck behind the edge in here for the speaker bracket. Now that's one off. Just toss it on the roof. Well, it appears I have more than enough screws off to take off the mirror. I need a small screwdriver. Apologies. There you have it. Let's have a peek. There are only 3 screws on the back. Hope it shows on camera. There are only 3 screws holding the mirror on. 1, 2, and 3. I'm gonna toss this aside and get you folks up close. So this is what the trim piece looks. From the outside. Get up close. There's a small screw and it's just overlapped by the door mirror. It's a self-tapping screw with a super flat head. It really is super flat. Okie dokie. Well, that's normal. There it is. And there we have it. It's the door trim. Gonna put this aside, show you in a minute. And there it is. Those are 2 clips and they have small hooks on them. Et voila. And if you're curious to know, you have this. Oh, let me see if the camera picks it up. These little buttons on the top of on the window, and on the back there is a small. Hope the camera picks it up. A small guide wheel. Gonna put this aside. Okay, those evenings are getting nice. I have a lot of sunlight coming in from the back windows. First thing I'm going to do, and this is what I should have done with the rear trim piece too, is mask it off because I scratched the nice chrome plated surface. Let's slip it over and assess the damage. We already know what that looks like. Yep. This is one of the small thingies that's spot welded onto the metal piece of the trim. This is what it looks like from the back, but the spot welds didn't hold and it came off. So here is my new plan of attack, my small cordless angle grinder and a wing nut. And then I grind off the wings, like here. I'm gonna glue this on. This has more surface area, so I hope this adheres better to the metal of the window frame or trim. And here is the end result. The increased surface area of the bottom of the wing nut provides much more area for the super glue to grip onto. And I already threaded a screw in, and it appears it is holding. So here we are. Trim piece is ready to go back in. I'll leave the protective painter's tape on for now. Well, apparently it still fits, so that's good. A little bit of cleaning over there. Get this one in nice. This super flat screw goes in front under this mirror mount. Okay, now everything on the outside for now is done. Let's get you over here. So now I have to put these small plastic covers back on. I think it's time to put the window glass and the runners back in. Okay, I managed to struggle the window in. That's best done by two persons. It took me an hour and a half to get things right. The trick is to slide the rear guide rail on first, the runner, and then drop in the front corner in, then slide in the rear so the window is in its position. Then you mount those 4 screws. I still have to do this one. When you have done that, tighten, it's just finger tight, then you have to slide in this runner, and it can be a bit tricky because there's an overlap with the weather stripping on the outside, so you have to get that right. So, only thing I need to do is put that one in, tighten it, and then I can start finishing this up. And before I'm going to do that, I'm making sure that the window rolls up and down as it should. And thank God it does. I think we're ready to get the foil back in place. Yeah, goes like this. There it is. It needs a good whack. That's looking good. Connect little lamp. Test it before you put it in. Connect it. Put this nice clean speaker grill in there. That's the height adjuster for the seat belt. Now it is in. Now it's nice and flush around the perimeter. Well, it's been a boatload of work. It's been utterly frustrating to do, especially since I'm alone. I could use an extra pair of hands for this task. And you don't see a thing other than I scratched it here and there. I have to touch that up, but sooner or later I'll have the car repainted, so you won't see anything of that anymore. But I like how it sits, how the shut lines are. Now I didn't take the doors out, but how these lines line up, those moldings. So there's that. Well folks, that's it for episode 23, and I'm glad I have all those things, the small things that triggered my OCD done, but I must admit doing this by yourself is a very frustrating task. But since the door panel moved with the window up and down, that's really nothing for an LS400, so I really wanted to have that solved. And also the small dent that was in the rear door, I pushed it out. But honestly, the paintless dent repair guy or the body shop has to do that in a later stadium. I don't care if the car looks tatty, scratched and a little bit dinged up. I want it to be technically sound. So, with that said, technically sound, I need to source some brake lines for the rear. I had a couple, but they don't fit this car. It seems that the facelift of August 1992 got shorter brake lines for the rear, and if you can help me out with them or an answer to that question, please let me know down below in the comments. And if you know where I can find them, because they're impossible to find over here, the part suppliers all say no, and they also say that when I want to order the sway bar links for the rear, they're nowhere to be found. I had a couple on order for only 40 euros, but the order got cancelled. So there's that. Anyway, if you like what you see, let me know, give me a like, maybe subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions or feedback, let me know down below in the comments. And if you want to help out the channel, you can do so by buying me a coffee. I'll leave the link down below in the description. For now, I would like to thank you for watching, for your support. Joe, Mike, thanks very much, and I hope to see everybody in the next one. Bye for now.